Chapter 14 talks about the end users, or who makes, maintains, and uses databases. So when we're thinking about data security, we should be thinking about who our different end users are and their needs. We should also be thinking about this when we're thinking about how to create the database, just like you would for any consulting project. These are different types of stakeholders. So at the very basic level, we have application users, sometimes called native users. These are just normal people doing their thing, using the information. This is you right now. You don't know how to do SQL or anything like that. You're just using the databases as they're intended. So that includes anyone doing data entry, generating reports, or doing web searches. Sophisticated users are basically database developers. That's going to be you in a few weeks, scarily enough. So those folks use SQL to directly interact with databases instead of using the forms and programs that are designed for the application users. These usually require knowledge of database management systems and SQL. There's also application programmers. These are hardcore developers, way out of scope for this class. Uses queries written in C, C++, Java, etc. Now SQL is embedded inside of those programs, basically. The book mentions briefly database administrators, but I also wanted to talk about data administrators because the two roles are integral but often confused because of the similarities of the names. So data administrators are basically database designers. Actually, this class does a lot of data administration type of work. So this is performing business requirement gathering. So like what kind of data should be stored? How does it need to be accessed? Analyzing the requirements for that. Looking at the business and determining how the business should be using the data in the database. Building the logical model, and we'll get into that next week. Defining and enforcing standards and conventions with the data. Conducting data definition sessions with users. We think this is kind of like product testing, database testing. Managing and administering the metadata repositories, and assisting the database administration folks in creating the physical tables from the logical models that they create. So basically our first segment of the class when we create the ERDs, that is basically what data administrators do. Now, database administrators administer and maintain the database, and this is going to be the tail end of our class. We're going to do a little tiny bit of this. So they basically do the physical side of the database, so they design and implement, including managing memory and error handling. They optimize the databases for performance, so queries only take like a couple of seconds if that. They install the servers, they update the programs and handle patches, a lot of tech stuff that I don't really know how to do, and my personal computer stuff, much less a database. Assists in database migration between servers, hands up the backups and recovery programs for these, manages all the security, including all the access rights for different database users and roles, and they generate reports and do a bunch of record keeping on all of their activities for auditing purposes. So very, very tech heavy types of roles. And there's subtypes of DBAs, like some specialize in warehousing, for example. And so if you're interested in this type of a role, there's a lot of resources to look into that. Someone like me, like I am not techy enough to be a database admin. Data administrator I could, but not a DBA. That's like a whole other level for me. But if you're interested, then talk to me and I can probably connect you with some folks and they can kind of chat with you about that life.